What's good and welcome everybody. It's your boy Vexus, a lurking legend. Y'all can just call me Vex, head cook of the Eternal Dawn. Super excited to be here with the whole crew and a very special guest of a wonderful friend of the brand, an absolute goat and positive force and brilliant mind within the community. We are joined today by the one, the only, Kuso Land. How you doing today, brother?
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me. It's amazing to be here again. It's been a while. I don't know. Maybe I said something wrong in the last one. I don't know, but it's nice to be back. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we've had you on a few times before for chapter discussions. Since the rebrand and before as well. So it's always a pleasure to cook with you. I talk with you in VCs, just like in different servers, pretty much every other day, I feel like, but it's great to get some of that spice here for the chat and just vibing. Well, let's go ahead and quickly introduce the rest of the crew we got here. We have the first mate and historian joining us for some great discussion. We have Kube the Red Sea. How you doing, brother?
Oh man, I'm excited. Especially we have the goat, Kuso goat here right now. Man, Goat Lando, man spits all the time. So I'm excited for this stream to talk about some of his past series and what he's cooking up for the future. Well, I do hope he's going to share a tidbit to us. But yeah.
Hell yeah. Next up, we have the helmsman. I always flub this. You're helmsman, right, Nak?
Yes.
We have the helmsman of the Eternal Dawn, Nak Reacts, the goat himself. How you doing today, brother?
What the heck, guys? I'm super excited to be here with, like you said, one of the goats of the community, one of the people I look forward to hearing from the most when it comes to new theories. Yeah, excited to hear about all you got going on, my friend.
Hell yeah. Next up, we have the navigator of the Eternal Dawn, one of my absolute favorite people in the entire One Piece community. We have 3-day trip herself. How you doing today, sister?
I am good. Glad to be here with Kuso. I just watched one of his series and it's really good. I'll be linking them throughout the stream, so get ready.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Much love there. And then last but certainly, I was gonna make the joke, I'm not gonna do it. Last but certainly not least, we have the captain of the Eternal Dawn himself. We have somebody I love like a brother, one of my best friends. We have Straw Hat Lucas. How you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing great and so excited to spit with somebody who has such amazing theories that span from such different topics. I mean, from Christmas to Great Britain. Two things I'd never expect to talk about in relation to One Piece, but they work, and they work well. So yes, Kuso, very excited to have you here today. And to our lovely audience, hello. How are we? We doing good? I'll be checking chat. You better say you're doing good.
Yeah, a huge shout out to everybody in the chat. If you're here, make sure you guys like the stream. Make sure you check out the links in the description where you can support all of our wonderful crew members, as well as Kuso. I've got all your socials put in the description as well, and your most recent theory. This man literally just dropped absolute peak literally yesterday, like like what, like not even 24 hours ago.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
We're gonna be going over some of that and some of the more recent like hot theories that you've been dropping as well. If you saw on the thumbnail, he has a really great dragon theory and a really great other dragon theory. and we'll be talking about some Christmas piece. Wow. But yeah, I don't know, does anybody have any in chat? If you guys have any questions for Kuso as well, feel free to send them and we'll try to address those. We normally do a really good job of keeping an eye on chat, but anybody have any questions they wanted to go? This is just kind of like an open forum theory showcase. We can talk about kind of your entire really goated body of work, you know. Like
I do
really appreciate all of the positive things that you guys are saying. It's kind of we should do this more often.
Yeah, we'll just gas you up once a week. We'll just bring you on if you're down.
Yeah, once a week we're just gonna pull him into a VC and gas him up.
We do that all the time. So what do you mean? We do that every day to you. We always gas you up.
Some of you, yeah.
Look who just said that. Like, for real.
It's crazy.
You know, Kuso saved my family from Marie Joie just to
I do have one
gas you guys
question
up
for you.
even more.
What's up, Nick?
How do you, looking back on all your theories, what do you think held up the most? You know, I know
Held
your
up the
magnum
most.
opus was probably the Christmas piece.
My magnum opus actually is a theory within that theory, and that theory, I hope stays true, is the one where I talk about Luffy's dreams, and it's essentially talking about, and it's a whole thing, but it's like essentially tying Luffy's dream to the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is
Yep.
Ooh.
which is called the
The
Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which is absolutely spicy in terms of like just it's absolute masterpiece. It's like the national anthem of the EU. It was also played on the fall of the Berlin Wall, which I'm like, well, that clearly ties into the Red Line and how Luffy may destroy the Red Line eventually, right?
Oh, of course.
But But the message behind the Ode to Joy is absolutely beautiful. It's about the brotherhood of all of humanity. It's like it's a story about peace. It's a story about people coming together, which really just works so well with One Piece and its themes as well. So that's the one theory that I really hope will stay true. And even if it doesn't, like I just feel like Oda really sort of embodies that in his piece anyway.
Yeah, I think so, 100%. And I actually watched that one again recently, and the way you incorporated the music in your theory had me feeling all kinds of ways. Like, I gotta say, man, that was a very well said.
No, I'm really happy that it was in the public domains as well, so I could actually use the piece as well in that.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like a
true.
lot of content creators forget that most classical music is public domain. So if you want to put the
Mhm.
Moonlight Sonata in your video, go for it, my guy.
Yeah, it was really well placed.
It was,
That's-
yeah.
I love that. My personal favorite is your dragon theory. Emu is a dragon.
Which dragon one? Oh, the emu one? Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
No, that
Bro
was
said,
spicy.
Ooh.
bro said which one?
Oh gosh.
Oh, man.
So Kuso,
Yeah.
Straw Hat Kufi had a question kind of in the chat. He asked about the Christmas armistice in World War II. Did you tie that into your Christmas peace theory?
No, I don't think so.
Actually, I believe that was in World War One.
Honestly,
yeah,
I'm
there was a
not
Christmas
that much of a
armistice.
history buff.
Yeah, I think it was in World War One because the World War Two setup is a lot of the rule of engagement were removed in World War Two, so it had to be World War One, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so because Lithbridge Stewart was there. Doctor Who fans unite. But no, it was there was just a brief moment on Christmas in World War One where both sides stopped fighting and
Oh,
sung
I love that
together.
story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Is this
very
one where they also played soccer or something?
yeah. They played soccer.
Yeah.
They shared
Yeah.
cocoa. Showed each other pictures of their wives and stuff like that. It's very interesting. I think we could see something very akin to that in the final war as well. Not to get off of your theory specifically, but this is a theory cook-off thing. So,
No, and I
but
think,
you know,
I think you bring up a really good point as well because, you know, I'm talking about the UK basically being the Great Kingdom, right?
Mhm.
And I'm saying in the video that the Great Britain, or the United Kingdom rather, and it's the British Empire, was the greatest empire in all of humanity. Like in recorded history, it is the greatest. And when I say the greatest, I simply mean it's grand, right?
Yeah.
yes.
At its peak, it was like a quarter of the whole world was actually under the British Empire. But that's not to say that what they did was great. You know what I mean? You know, there was a
no,
lot of
it's-
shady business
Well, a
going
lot of
on.
countries to this day, New Zealand, Canada, just to name a couple, which,
Crazy.
funnily enough, are still Commonwealth countries. They still see the Queen or King as their, you know, magistrate figure. Like,
Yeah.
they were,
And
like
funny-
you said, a great empire. Most empires fall. Fingers crossed. No.
my
I'm
God.
sorry.
But I do like what your theory embodies about the way that they really took over the world and expanded, because it was
Yeah.
it's not so
I mean-
much like the practices of the UK. It was like you know,
It's
their kinda
also
journey.
as what Vegapunk said, right? He was very clear in that he wasn't sure which side was right or wrong, and that's quite the case with history. And just when we have war, warring nations, right? It's not that one side was right or wrong. I mean, yes, some sides do a lot more atrocious things, but it's at the same time, it's like people on both sides are, falling, right?
Yeah, it's more nuanced than that.
Exactly. And so I think, especially when we see the great kingdom sort of portrayed in the story, it kind of looks holy, it looks quite godly, but I don't think in reality it was necessarily like that. I think there was a lot more nuances, like you say.
Yeah, there's two sides of it every time. And like, of course, now we got the recent development with the three aspects of what Nika could be. And we've said recently, like, that could just be three different perceptions of the same event.
Absolutely.
All different sides watching what had to happen, and
I mean,
how they
even
took
if you
it.
consider Luffy, right, like to the people he liberates, he's a hero, he's someone to look up to, someone to respect and admire, but to his enemies, he was terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I would not
Yeah,
want to face
absolutely.
off against Luffy at all.
Yeah, imagine
So-
being a Cypher Pole agent and he's just giggling while he destroys your home island. Yeah.
Well, look at Rob Lucci. Like, he was like, "Show me what you got on that bounty poster." Immediately PTSD. Immediately PTSD. He hit him so hard. One reason though I was bringing up, the Great Britain and the Christmas armistice thing, and I'm glad that Straw Hat Kufi did, because I was going to ask you about it as well. Is I've recently reread Punk Hazard, and G5 does something very similar with the Straw Hats, right? The Marines, they stop for a moment and they eat Sanji's food and everything. Did I come in and cut people off? I was deafened so I could listen to the stream.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry if I did.
no,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
You're good.
Okay, but yeah, no,
I'll-
they had that brief moment of clarity and coming together. And it made me really think, Kuso, do you think towards the end of the series we'll see some Marines doing that, coming together with the
Absolutely.
Straw Hats?
Absolutely. I mean, going back to that dream of Luffy's, if it does become
Yes.
an actuality where it's a brotherhood of all of humanity, like that includes all the enemies, including the Marines, and even potentially some of the Celestial Dragons. I know we don't want to see it. Like Charlos as like an ally, that's disgusting. Like no one wants to see that. But
Shalria, when
Excuse
listening
me.
to Vegapunk's broadcast, had a moment where she was like, "What do you mean?" When he said something about the Void Sentry, I believe, and she's like, "Void Sentry." So it shows that some of them are intrigued, like, "What do you mean? Like, why we're in power and stuff like that." She has that moment of clarity, but it's wild. You bring up Luffy's true dream as well. Oh, go ahead, Cube. Sorry.
I was not gonna not to add to what you were saying about the breakaway, will to pause. If you actually reread the Odin flashback when the Roger Pirates and White Pirates are fighting after the 4th day, when Buggy makes that comment about Blackbeard, he says even during the night when we had the standoff, like the break. So like for two crews, yes, they love each other, sure, but they were willing to to fight to the fullest. For them, it was
Yes.
normal for people who love fighting to even take a break. So I do think that it could be a similar thing with Punk Hazard. This could explain how Akainu and Kuzan were able to fight for 9 days straight. Where if there's I do feel like Oda's going to start incorporating this a bit more. Maybe before in the pre-time skip he's done it, but you know how Oda is distraction. So before he gets to that point, something else happens. Something else interrupts it. So I could see it, being more obvious. So yeah, I would love to see it as well.
Yeah, just to finish my thought real quick, Kuso. With the most recent chapter, I bet you felt tickled pink hearing Hyjurden's dream.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
1137 in general was just absolute peak. And like I was asking Vex if I should just pump it out now or a bit later, because it did feel quite relevant, right?
Yeah,
Yo, absolutely.
very.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect time to drop the theory that you did. And again, link in the description. If you have not checked it out already, throw that on your watch later. And right after we're done cooking here, go check it out. It's a really well put together theory as well as video, which I got to say about the quality of your whole channel, even your
The
first
editing.
theory. Yeah, like your first theory, I remember when you had like less than 20 subscribers. And I remember a friend of the channel, a mutual of all of ours here, I believe, Destinus the Dwarf, was screaming your name from the rooftops and was saying, you gotta check out this really great theory from this new creator. And that was
He really
just
started my career.
yeah, that
for
was
sure.
just over a year ago, because like we just
Oh, he did
passed
that to me
Christmas,
too.
right? And like it's just crazy to see how far you've grown like in the year but like your quality straight out of the gate with that first video was insanity. And like I don't know, I just it always blows me away, you know. Like so definitely, if you haven't already subscribed to Kuso's channel, I don't know what you're doing. I think everybody in the chat's probably heard of you by now, but if you're watching this in the future and you haven't, make sure you hit the link in the description for sure.
Of course.
Thanks, Vex.
Yeah.
There
And if
was
you're not
some-
sub to him.
There was
Go on.
Sorry.
there was something in your recent video, the video you dropped yesterday, which was quite interesting. The parallel we made of, you know, if Joybo was poisoned. He made a lot of you know, Napoleon connection. Do you know that there's an actual, like, not gonna say theory or you know, theory about what happened to Napoleon, but Napoleon died obviously of an illness. I think it was cancer. But there's also another story that says that they don't think it's a cancer who killed him, but the medicine he was taking it, and it was mercury poison. Know that because I learned that in history class, which I find very interesting when you're talking about Joe being poisoned, and there's one Gorsey, Warkery, that's, you know, based off mercury. So just, you know, thought. But yeah, I thought that was a really good point about, you know, Joybo being poisoned. I felt like I liked how you were able to take real life and instantly connect it to the story.
I mean, that was actually meant to be the initial theory. Like, I was going to talk about poison, and then when I came across this idea of the Great Kingdom and the United Kingdom, I was like, okay, I have to kind of scrap this poison idea, or at least incorporate it into this new theory, because it just felt so spicy, you know? But no, I appreciate you sort of noticing that aspect, because yeah, I think the poison thing is definitely interesting, considering how many times in the story Luffy has been poisoned. It's kind of ridiculous, right? And especially when you think about the expansive nature of what poison is in Japanese, which is doku, also being like, you know, toxins or virus or venom. You know, like in the English community, it's kind of like, oh, well, poison and venom are two different things. It's like, well, in Japanese, it really isn't. It's like, it can also mean harm or injury. So it's like, it's very flexible in what doku, as in poison, can mean. And then the fact that doku can also tie into dokuro, meaning skull and bones. I'm like, oh my god, like, how much more fitting can it be to like One Piece, right?
Well,
Yeah, spot
it's
on.
wild that. Go ahead, Nick.
No, just praising up Kuso as usual.
But no, it's wild too that you bring up how many times Luffy's been poisoned. Do you think that there's a chance, right? And this is a question for everybody. Do you guys think that there's a chance that the Nika fruit, remembering how Joy Boy passed, if we're going off of Kuso's theory, made sure that the next user had some type of immunity to poison? Maybe not seeking out these people to poison him or anything like that, but helping that will, giving him the will to fight off those venoms, those poisons and things like that. It's almost like a fail-safe mechanism for it.
I mean, this could explain one thing. With what your question, I'm gonna add to it, but this could explain one thing: why all the German kids seems to have one component of the Nika abilities to some extent, except one of them, Reiju, the ability to secrete poison. Pause. You know, kind of makes you wonder why one of them had such an odd ability, because you could see some patterns of Luffy's ability with all the Sanji and his siblings, except for Reiju. So.
Well, I've
What
heard
you're
it tossed
saying is-
around like all these times Luffy has been poisoned is like reflections of times that Nika has failed in the past. Like this is,
Ooh.
you know, if the journeys were like cyclical and they kept kind of happening in the same order of events, like these are the times that it failed before it could come to fruition. Because all the times
Exactly.
Luffy come back from poisoning.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I was going to say as well. I think, like, even when we saw Sabo take on the fruit of aces, you kind of saw that the two characters almost melded together in a weird way, a little bit, you know? Like, there was even something Sabo said, it's like, I will not forgive you, but Ace will, or something like that as well.
Yeah, Ace right here. Ace right here. Would never forgive you. He made a comment like Ace was with him at that moment, something like that. So,
Exactly. And like, so yeah, I do believe that when you take on a devil fruit, that the soul of the devil fruit kind of latches on or attaches onto the soul of the host, right? And so if they were to pass, then I do think that a part of that that old soul then gets sort of transferred to the devil fruit as well, and so it becomes this generational thing. So over time, like you say, Lucas, it's like it might be that the fruit knew to sort of give Luffy an advantage so that he wouldn't fail where the previous Joy Boys didn't. Sorry, did.
Yeah, I had said in my Gear Piece theory that was hosted on Dindin Cushy's YouTube channel that my tagline for it was basically the user forgets but the fruit remembers. You know, there's got to be something more to devil fruits, and like you said, with the way that they entwine with the souls of their users, that allows them to tap into, like, maybe to them it's intuition, but in reality it's almost an all for one situation. You know, the previous user, something that they learned was ingrained in fruit because the fruit learned right around, like, alongside them.
Yeah, I mean, this is spicy because, like, my next theory will probably be about time, and I've already sort of jammed with the boys here, sort of talking about some of the stuff and sort of asking them to come up with times in the story where time was actually relevant, right? But I really do think that this is the theme of time is going to be a huge component in the end. And so, sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
I think I see where you're going though, because like time, there's going to be these vast stretches of times where things kind of repeat themselves. I don't know if that's the angle you're going for, but like we'll see maybe 400 years ago there was similar sort of setup to these events that didn't come to fruition, and even the Void Century was an incomplete journey for Anika. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not what I was going to say. Like, I think it was going to be something absolutely groundbreaking, whatever I was going to say, but we'll have to leave it for the theory.
Actually, there's something that you and what you and Lucas were just saying about, you know, intuition. You know, in the next life, the fruit just gets a bit stronger. Kind of makes you think of how, well, we see many characters, but mostly Luffy. After he fails with a character, he learns from it. It kind of makes me think of and you think about this, right? Let's say the person that has a devil fruit, the will of that fruit, well, even if the host body dies, you know, and moves on to another body, right? So it never truly dies. Yes. Kind of makes you think of the expression, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly.
You know, like,
I remember.
You won't really die. Yeah. Like,
let's go.
Oh, sorry, go. Sorry.
All right. So Nika's form with the white hair and the red eyes is quite reminiscent of the Sulong form, right? And
yes.
We know that the Sulong form, when they introduced it, they talked about how it's essentially them accessing like memories of their ancestors. And what's also interesting with Luffy's ability as well is that when Luffy does the Gear 5, what is the repercussions of that? He turns into an old person, right? And so what if it's kind of like a rubber banding effect, if you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, because Luffy is channeling the memories of the past, like so much so that the repercussions of that is that it makes him older. Or same with Chopper's abilities, is like he's using a technological thing, the Rumble Ball, in order to advance himself to the future. But then by doing so too much, he then becomes that old geezer kind of thing that's kind of like a baby.
Yeah, chibi geezer.
Exactly. And same with what was the drug in Fishman Island?
The energy steroid.
Energy steroids.
Energy steroids.
Exactly. Again, like by using those too much, they become older, right? And so this idea that you're basically sort of harnessing sort of memories from the past or potentials of the future could be a very interesting topic.
You know who?
Well, you say potentials of the future, that makes me think Bonnie immediately. Sorry, I just had to get that out.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it.
Because ever since we've gotten into this arc, there was one character whose age, that how he aged does not make sense, especially with the people he's connected to. 38 years ago, Garling looked younger than Garp and Roger, who were like 40. He looked like Shanks when we first introduced, who was in his 20s. But now, the dude aged and looks just like Garp. So it's like something I've been saying about Garling, where his age seems to be odd in 38 years. He seems to have aged the most from people, and he's from a group of people who are not supposed to age.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because Roger was like a pretty young-looking 60-year-old too, 55-year-old. You know what I mean? He
Yeah,
could have
look
been
at
50 years old in that panel. And
I think that ties into we've seen in the SBSs, Oda's drawn two different trajectories for what people are going to look like 20 and 40 years down the line, and or X amount of years down the line, depending on the character. And so I think that it might just be indicative that Roger was living his best life, and some of these other individuals, like, Big Mom, ended up not having, like, I've heard the theory that it's commonly tied to, like, if your dream is becoming fulfilled or something like that. And so, like, there are characters that definitely have not lived their best life, I guess, and they have ended up looking a lot more caricature-esque, than like some of these chads that we see in their prime.
Yep.
I don't know. Big Mom do be looking good.
Okay, wow.
Did you see young Big Mom from Cloud Valley? There's a big difference. She's definitely in her bad timeline.
Nah, dude.
Yeah.
Both beautiful.
And the last thing I was gonna say with the Guardian, and plus what we saw how Saturn was taken out. I hope he
aged
rots
up
wherever.
rapidly.
Yeah, like
They
it
remind
does
me
feel
of
like what
Dorian Gray.
I don't know
Wow.
if he was aged up or if he just, that's his age and without the influence of Emu anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, that's what
To
I'm saying,
me-
is like
Went
all
right
of
to
his
that.
age is coming on at once, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I definitely see the value. Like, time is something, like, Kuso and I were spitting in VC for, like, I feel like it was like 4 hours straight, just talking about, like, the relevance of time across so many different facets of the story. And I felt like it was, like, endless. Like the sheer amount of, like, little details here and there. And, like, it's obviously a very vague topic, but when you really boil it down to exactly some of the more important things, like specifically, I think, like, Toki's fruit, that is something that I think is going to be incrementally important in not just the Void Century flashback, but, like, potentially the whole future of the entire series, like, as we are
I can't
getting
wait
into
to
the
see her
final
on,
saga.
I
Laugh Tale.
can agree more.
Yeah, she's gonna be there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Oh my-
I didn't see a
mean,
body.
It's funny you sort of talk about how we talked for like 4 hours as well, and it felt like eternal. Like the idea that time is very, it's kind of like perceptive, like it's hard to know. Like when you're having fun, right? It feels like it just goes by so quickly, and then sometimes you're at work and it's a 9-to-5 job, and it feels like it's an absolute drag, right? And so that idea that, like, time is experienced differently in different situations, I think that would be a really interesting sort of thing that Oda can play with as well.
I mean, it's relative. If you think about it, time is the one thing that's not natural to us. It's something that we adapt. And look at Dressrosa. You affect someone's memories and calendars.
I think that,
Kiros
like,
is from 100 years ago.
yeah,
You
like
don't
what you're
have to deny it.
saying, in that it's subjective and or it's relative in that sense. It reminds me of what Rayleigh had told us on Saba Odi. It's like, you might interpret it in a different way. And what else did we hear from the Roger Pirates? Is like, we're too soon. Like, so again, it's like two kind of other parallels with it. So I'm
They came
always
too
hyped
early.
for the pause.
We're too early.
I'm always hyped to see, like, the next Kuso Land theory pop out. I know you just had one drop, so but I'm extremely hyped for
Yeah,
that
when's
one.
the next one?
Need more. I'm over here scratching my
Any more?
neck. Like, you got any more of them theories? Like,
Dude,
Any more
I
than
have,
Landos?
I have a Google sheet just full of ideas, and it's just a matter of finding the time. But it takes so long just to produce one of them,
yeah, and you do a lot. You do your own assets, like you do the art for your channel and everything. And, like, it's, if you guys
You did
haven't
the art
checked
for
out,
this channel.
Yeah, he is the one who provided us with the eternal pose that you see on screen right now, and
My
it's
avatar.
yeah, and
moves,
Cube.
That's him.
Yeah, Cube's yapping avatar right there. Like that's so it's so impressive the amount of
Yapping avatar
detail.
is crazy.
Yeah, it's called a
so good.
instead of a
It's
Jolly
my
Roger,
favorite.
it's called a
You cut out.
I'm
But,
so glad he
God
got out.
damn. I said a yapping slanderer.
punchline.
oh man. But no, it's the amount of detail and quality that you are like able to consistently put out it's honestly it's refreshing, because you see a lot of other creators, even like big creators with a full team and stuff like that aren't really kind of hitting that same metric that you are. I'm not just trying to gas you up. It's like an actual observation, because I've watched
No, they're
I've watched
beautiful, man.
a ton of theories, and I know that some of these people have like several artists on their payroll and stuff like that, and so the fact that you're just like one man like knocking it all out it's pretty incredible, and it's always a pleasure to like help you out with whatever ideas you have. And like we've had so many conversations where you're just like, what do you think of this? And then like a month later you put out like a fire theory on it, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
No, I'm really happy I found this community as well. Like, obviously with the Christmas piece, like I was very new to the community. I don't really know too many theorists or even like channels at that time. I think it was like Grand Line Review or something like that. And I remember his like Blue Banana podcast where he was like, everyone should just give it a go. If you have like a willingness to try, then you should try it. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll just give it a go. And
Awesome.
I'm really glad I did, because I did find this amazing community where I can bounce ideas off of. And it's not just that, like, we'll be on the VC just every day, not even just talking about One Piece necessarily, or even anime, like, we're really just getting into the nitty gritty of just like, what is life?
Existence. But yeah.
Exactly.
I can't.
Yeah, one of the
say
best-
it, yeah, I can't say it any better. Like you, I found
Yeah,
this
the-
community this past year as well, and it's been a blessing.
Absolutely.
I'm old, Yusuke.
And with all of that heartfelt stuff, being spit around, I have to shill really quick and say, if you guys also want to be a part of this wonderful community that Kuso and Nag are talking about, link in the description,
Go.
join our Discord, come say what's up.
Yeah,
We're
you
always,
could be on VC with Kuso Land Theories.
yeah,
Come meet
Crazy
Judy.
enough.
just until he has a
come meet
meeting.
Judy.
Until he has a meeting, he has to get to.
Yeah.
Or until he randomly deafens.
Air quotes
not-
meeting. Yeah.
Jokes
It's
on
not
you,
my fault you guys live
Kuso.
in the past.
We brought you in to roast you. Like now
Yeah,
the real
welcome
stream
to the
starts.
roast of
Oh, here we go. All right. Bring it
Oh
on.
my
Come on.
goodness.
But so to bring it back to what we were saying about time, as I was thinking about this, there is something that also is quite interesting and we've seen with with the minks, how their clothes seems to be like old French like musketeer, and it looks like it's very old. But I remember what Vivi said. Vivi says in Little Garden when she sees the dinosaurs, and she talks about how she's heard about places where it has never evolved to the point that it seems like time doesn't even move anymore in those places. Like it stands
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Just a thought, she
No, it's
brings up.
powerful.
Do you guys think that Little Garden was one of the original homes of the giant? Because as we just found out, like Kuso said, 1137, huge chapter for some lore. There are multiple giant outposts. We knew of one other one because of Saul and being from the South Blue. But I'm wondering now if Little Garden is also part of that. It is their Little Garden.
I mean,
Quote
if you think
Louis
about
Arnott.
it, remember that panel I showed of Louis Arnott and Little Garden? He refers as Little Garden, the land of the giants. So is it part of the fable, or was it at one point that's where some giants used to come from?
And that's
we
a
always had
crazy
all that.
thing, is because a lot of people are saying Louis Arnott, if he knew about giants on Little Garden, would have had to have been within the past 100 years since Dory and Brogy had started their contest there. But if they were originally outposted there and there was some sort of civilization there long ago, then Louis Arnott could be a more esoteric and like ancient figure from like a longer back past,
Exactly. Especially
Which is
like
interesting.
I believe we mentioned it to Shill again in our chapter discussion, which you have to go watch after the stream when it drops. But we did mention that maybe Elbaf was originally a safe haven for all of these giant tribes that just became kind of obsessed with that nationality of Elbath and caused them to become dismissive of other giant tribes. So I think it's completely valid now to believe that Luyar-Not came from a much longer time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with the little garden that you bring up, because it's the first time in the story that we hear of the word taiko, which means ancient in Japanese, right? And there's actually two ways that you can say ancient in Japanese, and both versions are used in the story. So the first is taiko, which is like prehistoric, kind of like, like dinosaur times, which is perfect for Little Garden, which is called the ancient island, right? But it's in the prehistoric way of it. The other word for ancient in Japanese is kodai, and kodai is used in like the ancient weapons, for example. So they use that version of the word ancient. And if you also think about the Great Kingdom, the Kyodai no Okoku, the kanji there for kyo, it's the same kanji for kyojin, which means giant. And so all of this to say that I think that Joy Boy's era, I think that what the heroes or the big players in that era of the ancient times, I think was more like the giants, the buccaneers, and the onis, right? But I think the Taiko era, which is Nika's era, I think that might have been different sort of players potentially. Like, I don't know.
See, I'm interpreting as the giants and onis were the big players of what you call the Taiko, I believe is what you called it.
Taiko.
The Taiko era, the ancient era.
Just to add, Taiko also phonetically means drums, so yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
spit.
that's pretty.
That's cooking.
That is pretty.
Which is perfect as well, because of that the most recent revelation of Nika's silhouette, which we got in Elbath, they were talking about that being the Taiko age. Like, so the Harley text is from the Taiko age, not the Void Century age.
Well,
exactly.
So just something to add to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to finish my point real fast. Is that I believe the Oni and the Giants were the Taiko age threat, or not threat, but like the larger fighting force. And then Joy Boy's era was the rise of the humans. The Buccaneers were probably big players there. So were the Lunarians. Things. I was going to
bring up the Lunarians because specifically we see another instance of, and I could be wrong, but like taiko drums is that not what Enel has like around him? Okay, and if he's somebody who's discarded his wings, this could be like the taiko era could be like where it's no longer the reign of the Lunarians, which were possibly before the giants, and then we get the giants taking over after that. I don't know, like just to go with like multiple different like lineage factors, like kind of just like being the top dogs, because we know the Lunarians had their time in the sun as well, like for sure, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if that's like some really interesting.
Still surviving.
Go ahead.
That's what makes me think they were Joy Boy's era instead of the true Taiko era, because to survive for thousands of years as giants, that's one thing. But to survive as a race like the Lunarians for that long in the shadows, completely another. Like, to still be actively hunted down by the world government, it feels like Lunarians definitely, that took place in Joy Boy's time. Obviously not them getting here, or the Birkins even getting here, but just in like the grander scheme of things, it makes sense that if they were the ones that topped the red line right before the Void Century all happened.
Yeah, I do think they were the indigenous people there from the Taiko times for sure. Yeah. Which makes sense because of, I mean, it kind of makes sense as well with like, the American Indians as well, who were also forced out of their homes.
From the New World.
Very much
from the New World, exactly. And if you think about the New World being literally the first colony that the British Empire actually colonized, that's also pretty spicy.
Which was
you could even go further with America. The Romans and most of the Gaelish, because before the Gaelish was across Europe, And then most of them, like, we know we connect Gaelish to like northern England, you know, like Ireland, Scotland, stuff like that. But they were Gaelish who were basically in the French region, who were wiped out by Julius Caesar, no less.
Yeah. And even before then, like you could keep going back and back and back with the Vikings and the Druids, or then the Anglo-Saxons. Well, actually, be the Anglo-Saxons taking out the Druids, and then the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons clashing for as long as they did. The topic of England and tying it to the ancient kingdom makes so much sense because they have some of the oldest history in our world. Me and 3Day have been cooking on this. You heard it here first on the Eternal Dawn, y'all. The Harley text. There's legitimately a text in England called the Harleian manuscript that is thousands of documents that date back to like the later halves of the BCs, the start of the ADs or CEs, whichever you prefer. So yeah, like it details a lot of human history.
That's so spicy.
And
yeah,
talking about the UK, with you were talking about the Hardy tags learning. Do you know what is one of the most oldest like education institution in the world? That's like over 1,000 years old. Oxford University, British.
Oxford, yeah.
It's older than the Ottoman Empire. Fun fact.
Oxford, Oxbell.
I think it's like I think it's like
Oxbell.
10. I think it's like 1,000, 1,100. It's like between 1,000 and 1,100 years a year after, you know, Jesus calendar.
I mean, if we also
founded.
even think about the Gear 2, right? Gear 2nd
Yes.
of Luffy's. That would probably tie into the Industrial Revolution as well.
The steam engine.
Exactly. And it started in
Cook.
Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
That's spicy.
Really.
That is
That's
super
really-
spicy. But yeah, I implore everyone. Me and 3Day are cooking up something with the Harleian Library and some other inspirations for Elbaf, but definitely research into it. I think Oda is a history buff. In your video about England and the way it ties to the ancient kingdom as well, like that settled it for me, man. He knows what he's doing.
I think so too. And I think it's very dangerous territory, right? Because the British kind of pissed off a lot of people. And so I think
government.
Who hasn't?
exactly.
Like,
Who
let's be
hasn't?
real.
No, I know.
Who hasn't?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But which is why I think he's going to be very nuanced with how he depicts the Great Kingdom as well, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's going to be this like amazing utopia and everyone's happy. Like, wasn't the era of slaves or something around the same time even as well?
Yeah.
In the
And-
One Piece?
Yes.
Like, you've also said that, like, you said it in your most recent video, if I recall correctly, is like Oda very rarely takes something as like a 1-to-1. It's always some sort of like mixed match, hodgepodge, you know, like just like a Franken construction of like several different themes from different ideas and inspirations. And so I do believe he's gonna be very nuanced with it. And like that's like with recent reveals, which have the community a little bit divided. We talked about it on our chapter discussion that we recorded earlier today. Make sure you guys are subscribed so you can catch that whenever it goes up. But
Chill, baby, chill.
oh, you know me. You know me. I got the shill know me. But it's like it's there's things that, you know, I might not, you know, some of the community and myself included might not see right away the full vision. But like Oda's gonna put his own little spin on it and make it something worth reading. Like I can't imagine.
Exactly.
It's always gonna be an homage.
Especially something of this caliber. And like when we get this late into the story, all of these things, I don't know, like I'm expecting quite a bit, you know, and maybe that's dangerous, you know, like, but I think he's gonna pull it out. And like, so whatever's going on with the ancient kingdom, I love the idea that it is going to be several different pulls from different eras and like nations in our own history, you know. So it really blew my mind, like with all of the different parallels. And like it's like when you really look at the evidence, it's fairly insurmountable. Like it's crazy how much there is, you know, to it.
I think so. I mean, I found a lot when it came to the UK, but then obviously when we think about Atlantis and Mu even, or like the Greek and the Romans as well, like it's obviously just as much information and just as much parallels. So
Yeah.
it totally makes sense that Oda is going to do this 4D chess move where we just are not going to expect it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, you were talking about, with all the things in the Ancient Kingdom, there must be a dark side. Think about Dressrosa and Wano, when we got the flashback on when everything was good. There was like, from Oroshi's side in Wano, it wasn't a great place to live in for him as a child. And then look at the Tontanas, they were still not treated well. 10 years prior to the story, or just before the Flamingo arrived. So there's this nuance of, and then we found out, we got the storyline of Odin's whole life. Odin started like not as a great guy, in his island, but he changed, after he, opened his mind to the world. Which, it's kind of similar to, if you think of what Homing said. Something happened to him and he wanted to be close to the people once again. And then Mjosgard said, I want to be human again. So kind of makes me think that it's not unfounded, the issue of the Ancient Kingdom. There must have been something. It's just, someone, Blackbeard of that era just, took advantage of a situation.
Yeah.
It could be also
Manipulation
that.
to its peak, for sure.
Yeah.
No, there's always going to be someone who takes advantage of those kind of situations, right? When there's sort of chaos or confusion or turmoil, someone's always going to take advantage of it. Like we see with like all the kids that have been manipulated by adults in the story, like with Doflamingo, we've had it with Linden. I feel like we've had like 2 or 3 other people. Yeah, Orochi as well, absolutely.
I expect Loki to be one of these examples as well.
Usopp.
The character he was speaking to.
Usopp.
Yeah, when he gave
Elaborate.
the snake oil to Otoku.
Listen,
Oh my god.
Oh,
no. Why would you break my heart like this midstream? We're cooking and you're
I'm
trying to have
kidding.
me flavor the food with tears.
I'm kidding. It's
There's also someone else that we don't think of, but if you think about it, because of that influence that he has, and it wasn't, I would say it's like it's Hody Jones with Arlong. Arlong did not intend to manipulate him, but in a way, Arlong's view of humans is what formed Hody's ignorance in a way, Like when he was an adult, even the brothers of Shiroshi said it. It's too late. He's too far gone.
And that's ultimately the story of fishmen and people too, and
Yeah.
humans. It's not that there's a direct reason for the hatred. It's just like they learn it from their parents, and it keeps getting passed down through generations.
Yeah, the cycle continues. It's
Speaking of getting passed down through generations, we had a really spicy question in chat from the Will of Dreams, and chat's been kind of cooking on it a little bit. But yeah, Kuso, in Zao, apparently there was like the national treasure in Zo. How do I pronounce that? I'm sorry.
Zol.
Zo. Okay. So the dress, which that might have been passed down. It was regarded as a national treasure. So Will had asked, is there a chance that could have been Lily's?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I even brought it up in the Love Piece video, potentially. Like that was
we've begun to touch on the love piece.
Oh, I don't like the way you said that.
I had to pause for a moment.
What up, Greg?
Bro said domino. No, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Kuso. Yeah, you were making a point, Kuso. Okay.
Love piece. Right, so
Dress.
dresses, weaving,
Lily.
straw hat.
Oh yeah, the Weaver Princess. It's literally like on the thumbnail, right? Yeah.
Bid farewell to
Exactly.
Weaver's Town.
Yeah, I mean it's in the big Sasaka, right? I think a Weaver village was something that was quite relevant probably to someone very dear to Joe Boy, right? Because it's saying goodbye to the Weaver village and then waving goodbye to someone like a shadow that you'll never see again. I believe that was kind of like the lyrics on that. And it would make sense that it was potentially Lily.
And it
And-
probably represents like a really grand gesture as well, because it's something that's ingrained in the culture of the minks still to this very day, generations and generations later, is letting somebody
Sharing of
borrow,
clothes.
like trading clothes and stuff like that. That's a huge like term of endearment in their culture.
Yeah.
So this was really spicy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
love
always
the
wanted to
idea
ask
that it's
you-
a tradition passed down from the ancient kingdom, or like when they accept, because I always have this image of the ancient kingdom being like all races and all peoples come together, but when they accept people, they take their knowledge and share their own, and it's
Well-
kind of just the basic of that. Like, here's our clothing, and we give you yours.
Yeah, before we
Kinda
get, I'm gonna let Lucas spit. I just had to bring it up as well while we're on this topic. Is like the passing down of a piece of clothing is literally something we witness in Romance Dawn, is it not? With the hat, like that straw hat
Yeah.
that's literally, so this, it very well
Yes.
could be tied to ancient times and the ancient kingdom. So I love that question. Chat, y'all are goated. Let us know if you got any other questions. Lucas, take it away. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Also, just got to point out to that point that the first person Luffy puts his hat on is Nami. So a woman getting the hat back from someone, maybe like Kuso says, it was Vivi
I
giving
mean,
it to
her with the
Joy Boy.
needles as well, right? And she was quite
Exactly.
often mending the straw hat as well. And then she
After the
had
buggy
the
fight.
whole, and the clothing brand of the I Am Lion,
Mhm.
you know?
Now,
I
what
mean-
I was going to ask,
Beautiful.
though, something I've been wanting to ask you since that Love Piece video is with the Weaver's Town, right?
Yes.
Do you think that it could be Laugh-Tale? And hear me out here. After Roger sailed from Logtown, that's when it became the town of the beginning and the end. Not after, it was just a town before then, right? Just a random town in the East Blue. Then it became something significant. So, do you think there's a possibility that this Weaver's Town, or what's the other one they mentioned in it, Port Renown?
The what, sorry?
Rommel?
What? But no, do you think this Weaver's Town, though, could have been Laugh-Tale? Like, because of the significant event, it became that significant because of Joy Boy's birth or the love of Lily and Joy Boy there.
So my interpretation is that they were delivering the Binks' sake to a different place,
Weaver's
right?
Town.
Well, no, they were leaving Weaver's Town to deliver
Yes.
Binks' sake. And I mean, my headcanon is that Binks' sake will be quite prevalent in Laugh-Tale, right? Like, I assume it will be a component to the One Piece itself. And so if they were leaving Weaver's village in order to deliver the Binks' sake, then I feel like that was a starting point of their destination. And so maybe, but I feel... Shoot.
I always interpreted it as Wano, since we do know that Wano is like, that's where like Little Oars Jr. and Ace had originally told us, the audience, and I know there's so much more information
Cold.
in the world of One Piece other than what is given to us, the audience, through these, narrative mouthpieces, but like that's like the place that I think is the most closely tied to weaving, to the best of our knowledge, specifically of Straw Hats.
As far as we know at the moment, yeah. And I mean, even the idea of weaving kind of ties into the Silk Road, right? And again, that was such an interesting part of our history. And if you even look at the road of the Silk Road, it kind of feels like it ties into a Grand Line. So the idea that there was a lot of trade of different ideas and sort of commodities and different sort of technologies back in the days, I feel like it feels like a parallel to that in some way.
I would even say that there's another place that's another place that most likely was a destination or connected to it is Shandora. That's where where they believe in Nika, and every time Robin kept writing the poneglyph, she read about the weaving people. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I reread the Shandora parts yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
And the
if
amount
we're
of
also
times
thinking
that she
about
said
Dressrosa-
weaving.
Oh, sorry, shoot. Yeah,
Dressrosa.
Dressrosa
you're
was
right.
another one for sure. Like the number of connections to clothing in general, like obviously Dressrosa meaning pink dress as well.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
we had the Leo's fruit. We had the Nui Nui
Stitch,
no Mi.
Stitch, yeah.
We had the Ito Ito no Mi, which was Doflamingo's fruit. We had the Fuku Fuku no Mi, which was Kinemon's fruit. we had the flag fruit
Yeah.
of Diamante, and then like I don't know, just if Dressrosa is absolutely crazy when you think about just my theories actually, like the Christmas piece video, like I felt like there was a lot of connections to Dressrosa there as well. And when I was doing it, the Love Piece video, there was a lot of connections there to Dressrosa as well, which is surprising because I don't know if it was the same for everyone else, but Dressrosa was a bit too jam-packed for me, like with just the
same.
number of characters. Even
Nah, man. Like
I'm
for me,
rereading it right now.
on the first read.
I think it's really interesting because Dressrosa was such a labor of love for Oda, who was like he was convalescent at that point in time, and he got actually help from Kishimoto, a friend of his, and it was like, I believe, I could not find the interview. Maybe somebody in the chat can, who is a better internet sleuth than I am, but I believe it was said in an interview around that time that Oda was like, yeah, this is basically the halfway point. And so it's like, it's so spicy. Like the more we like, it's one of my favorite arcs. I love it, and I think that it should get the reanimation treatment like Fishman Island has gotten, and it would be everyone's top
probably
3.
the worst animated arc of all time, to be honest.
And so there's a lot of fat to trim. I do agree, but like yeah, I think it would be, if it got the redo like Fishman Island did, I think it would be every single person here's top 3. Like there's so much there, and it's really quality in my opinion.
I can second that. Like, especially if you're a theorist, I think if you're not looking at Dressrosa closely, I feel like you're doing One Piece disjustice quite a bit. Because
Yeah,
there
and
is
same
so
thing.
much in there.
We were talking about national
Fishman
treasures.
Mhm.
We were talking about national treasures, and like the Zou national treasure, and that in Dressrosa where we tie it to dresses, like you were saying, and all of those ties. That's also where specifically Doflamingo says that he was aware of Marie Joie's national treasure, which is like, that has to be integral to the end game, like whatever's going on there. I think that's massive, that's huge. And so like, yeah, I could start a whole nother campaign if I wasn't like all in on, you know, everything ties
Thriller
back to
Bark.
Thriller Bark. Yeah, Dressrosa's where I go next for sure.
Yeah. Mine's always Long Ring Long Land and Fishman Island
Mine's
and Thriller
Alabasta.
Bark.
Alabasta and Dressrosa.
No, there's actually
Thriller
another
Bark,
place
baby.
where closing was a whole
Thriller
thing
Bark,
in the arc. Whole cake, raid suits.
Oh sure.
If you think about it, they went even deeper. You know, like they don't even they share to a specific person, you know, lineage as well. So it's like when you think about it, they go even further with closing.
Do you think the Straw Hat will tie into some sort of technological thing that will like transform Luffy in some way?
No, because of the nature. I've heard a lot of people asking like if it'll integrate into like One Piece, into the One Piece or something like that. And because of the nature of it and what we learned about it, specifically Orangetown, right? It's a sentimental treasure. I think even if Joy Boy has a Straw Hat, which we know he did, it will be a sentimental treasure and not something that ties directly into the One Piece. Maybe.
I mean, even the fact that the Straw Hat is a symbolism of the common people, right? It does need to sort of not
I think
be so grand.
the most important thing to me about the Straw Hat is all of these silly power scalers. If you're listening, I love you, I'm just joking, but all of these silly power scalers are talking about like, oh, this feat and this feat, and then they want to talk trash about Buggy because he hasn't shown any actual combat feats. He is the one person in all of One Piece, right, who has actually damaged this nigh invulnerable Straw Hat. I don't see Magellan doing that. I don't see a Kainu doing that. I don't see none of these other like endgame figures or something. Like, you know, Buggy
He's
top
also been
one.
a Shichibukai and a Yonko, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, he was Roger's apprentice. Come on, yo.
Dude,
Like Buggy's
no, it's much bigger
Sailed
than
with the
that.
Pirate King.
He was part of the Ed Wars. He was part of the skirmish between the Roger pirates and the Whitebeard pirates. He escaped Impel Down. He was in Marineford. Dude has a CV. He has a real
Ross's
resume.
son.
Oh yeah.
Just ignore that, guys. Just ignore that point, guys. The last one you can ignore.
But I think it's just
Ignore what Cube said. Rocks
it's so
his
funny
son,
when you
Buggy.
when you think about this, like with like the Legend of Zelda or Indiana Jones treatment, like the hat is invulnerable, right? Except it's not in Orangetown. Like Buggy did that. That actually happened, right? So like he scales above everybody else in the verse, as far as he scales above Kaido. Kaido didn't do anything to the hat. You know what I mean? Like,
Buggy top one for real.
yeah, quote me
Buggy
on
for the
all of
entire
that.
run.
Everyone clip it, throw them in the like. I don't care. Y'all can. I'll take that to my grave. You know.
I'm gonna say something, Kuso. For someone who studied French history and European history, when you show those paintings in your video and you show how they have the similar symbolism as Luffy's straw hat when he's behind his head, I won't lie, dude. You just need praise just for that part of the video.
Oh, with the Saints? Yeah, that's
with the
incredible,
Saints.
right?
Yeah, that's incredible. And I've studied that in history books so many times. And I've been rereading, the last few years with One Piece, and I never made that connection of how similar it looks.
Yeah, when I was looking at St. George and saw those halos behind their heads, it's like, that's Luffy. That is absolutely Luffy. The fact that Oda has been able to incorporate that into his character design, like, he is a great designer. Which makes you wonder why he did some crappy flags, like the Revolutionary Army flag. That looks rubbish, and same with the Big Mom flag. Like that looks like it was done by a 5-year-old, right?
I agree with the Big Mom Pirates flag. That is a what, but it kind of makes sense because she is a very childish individual in nature. Outside of those moments where she seems like almost like the switch flips and she becomes like this like menacing but like it does. That's like the whole air there is like the Beauty and the Beast like Disney musical kind of theme where like the trees and candy are all singing and talking to you and stuff. So I get that because this is an absurd and goofy story.
Oh,
at times,
I mean,
right?
I wasn't saying it in like I guess I was saying it in a negative way.
No. I get what you mean.
What's interesting is that like when his designs don't look quite right, like with the Revolutionary Army flag, right? That dragon is kind of weird. It kind of looks like a gauntlet. It looks kind of like some other things. Like, you can sort of break it down, like the shapes.
So,
you can break down the shapes to sort of mean different things. And so I feel like when a design doesn't look quite as sort of peak, I wonder if it's those situations where Oda's actually sort of trying to cram in a lot of different ideas into it.
I think it's more of an homage to the real life, like golden age of piracy. And if you look back at a lot of their Jolly Rogers, they all look like doo-doo as well. And like it's kind of actually reminiscent of a few, specifically, I want to say Bartolomeo Roberts and Samuel Bellamy. Like those two had like similar kind of like very rudimentary designs. It just on a black flag, they just had like very basic concepts, and it didn't actually like, I don't know, when I'm like I've been researching this a lot lately, when I look at it, I'm like, that's a weird Jolly Roger. And so I feel like that's kind of the same vibe he was maybe trying to encapsulate with that flag specifically, because you see all these other ones that are like so grand, like Blackbeard and Kaido, but when it comes to like, I don't know, the Rocks Pirates, the Revolutionary Army, and even the Red Hair, which are all figures that are more or less still shrouded in a lot of like mystery. Obscurity and mystery. Yeah, they kind of all are very simple, and I think that's a harkening back to that era.
I agree. I mean, did you ever look at
With
the
real life, Blackbeard had like, I think it was a horned man with a spear and a heart. That was his flag.
Yeah, well, with the Great Pirate era coming about, you'll have more people who are going a little bit extra mile to make their Jolly Roger stand out amongst the sea of new Jolly Rogers, right? So it makes sense in a story point where some of the newer age pirates would want their Jolly Rogers to be more prevalent because of these bigger names who have these more simplistic Jolly Rogers. I won't lie, Kuso, when you started talking smack about Jolly Rogers, my body got real tense and you thought you were going to say something about Pumas.
That is my favorite. That is absolutely my
Let's
favorite.
go.
The best one in the story. Looks like it was drawn by a child.
Did you guys ever see the Romance Dawn one, like the pilot version, where it's like it's a straw hat, but like it's sort of
gum arms.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah. There's something
So weird.
There's
It's
something.
so weird.
There's something I like about the revolutionary one, and it kind of makes me think of when we understood the tattoo on the Sun Pirates and on the Hancock, that there's a meaning. Because I do like the theories people have analyzed the revolutionary one that they said the wings looks like the Lunarian wings, and the lower mouth, the mouth of the lower part of the mouth of the dragon looks just like Orsa's jaw.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always wondering if it's not supposed to represent like one group of people, but maybe it's regrouping, something about the ancient kingdom, maybe a nod to them and those kind of
United
stuff.
Be like a symbol of remembrance for like those who are lost, to history. Maybe that's interesting.
Being dragon, trying to change the status quo. It could be his perfect middle finger to the world government. This is the symbol I'm showing the world. I'm shining a light on some of the secrets, as well. So
I always thought
feel like
it was with the world government aspect of it. I always thought it was dragon was I'm the head of the dragon. You are only the hoofs, because their symbol is the hoof of the dragon.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
interesting.
I get you. That's wild. I did want to also just like figure out like kind of like pose this question to you while we have you, Kuso. But as somebody who you are a native Japanese speaker, is there like anything that kind of sticks out to you that I don't like a lot of the people you've interacted with this community maybe have viewed differently, since a lot of us are from like a more Western audience? Like I know that like translations and like there's different like scanlations, and Japanese in and of itself is fairly ambiguous at times for like there's multiple different ways that certain things can be translated, like with the One Piece itself being like Hitotsunagi and stuff. Is there like anything other than that one which that it like really stuck out to you
I think
as like majorly different?
Some of the ways that were interpreted by the West was quite interesting, like because obviously one of the prominent sort of religions in Japan is Shinto, right? The idea that even objects can have souls if they're kind of loved enough, essentially, or if they're cared for enough. And we have so many gods in Shinto religion that kind of are
It's
from like
called
different animals and stuff.
the countless kami, right?
I didn't know that, but yeah, maybe.
Oh, well, let's go. But
yeah, I think the interesting one, the first time I was a little bit confused was like the Kashigami, where the prominent sort of theory in the community is that the Kashigami is the sun god, and then they also mentioned the rain god and the forest god and the earth god, I believe. Was it the three others? Yeah. And so my first interpretation of it at the time was that they were all the same gods. Like the sun god Nika, or the Kashigami, was the god of the sun, but also the rain, also the forest, and also the earth. And so it did take me as quite a surprise when I came into the community, when everyone's sort of talking about, oh, actually it's 4 different gods. And so that was kind of interesting. It's also like
Yeah, that's kind of massive, I'm not gonna lie. Like, have we all been basing theories around these 4 gods and they don't even exist?
my headcanon is that it's just the one god. I feel like all of those elements probably tie into like the theme of trees, for example, right? And then we have the Adam tree and the sun tree Eve, and it's like,
Trees
if you
having
consider,
souls.
well, yeah, exactly. I mean, in Shinto religion as well, like you have these trees that are sort of taken care of and looked after and sort of revered as well as these like holy sort of locations, right? And so if Nika was actually a wooden puppet, for example, made out of the Adam tree, the treasure tree Adam, and manifested itself as like a living entity, kind of like Club Adamon, then I feel like that would have been a really interesting way in which you can tie the earth, the rain, the sun, and what was the 4th one?
The forest.
The forest.
Yeah.
The obvious one. Yeah.
The most obvious one. Yeah. That's so spicy,
I love the
though.
idea of Nika being a doll that was just taken care of so well that he did become this liberating figure for whoever it was that
Be like
you know,
an
took care of
inverse of Sugar's Fruit, where like you're turned into a
Yeah.
toy and you're forgotten. This person was immortalized, you know, like after
Yeah.
going from a doll to potentially becoming a
a
Klabautermon,
toy
which
that
would be,
can never be forgotten.
yeah, that's
And
crazy.
shout out to Will of Dreams, yeah, Pinocchio, exactly. If you look at some of the old drawings that Oda did, he actually
The cube just got
depicted
excited.
Pinocchio as well in the story. And what was the name of the dad? I was like Geppetto. or
Geppetto.
something?
Geppetto.
Yeah. If you look at the beard of Geppetto, right, and then look at the automata who also have the same beards,
Oh.
you start to
Ooh.
wonder if
Oh.
puppets actually played a part. And so you go back to Karakure Island, where you also had Skimmy, Dr. Skimmy, right?
hmm
And so it's like, yeah, maybe Nika was a wooden toy that ate the Hito no Mi, which then became the Hito no Mi Moro Nika. Became a real boy.
This is this is amazing. Like this
That's
is
so
some fire
spicy.
stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh,
I mean,
man.
You think about it, the
The
original
idea of him being a
Pinocchio.
doll makes so much sense. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cube.
I mean, for me, as I'll add to it, is if you actually read the actual novel of Pinocchio, not the Disney version, but the actual novel, it's extremely dark, which fits, you know, a One Piece twist. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Oda, yes, he used some Spanish inspiration for Dressrosa, but also Italian, which, you know, the original story of Pinocchio is, if I'm not mistaken, is an Italian story. Fable.
Like fairy tales are obviously a really big part of it as well. And I know, Cube, that you wanted to talk about Disney at one point. I remember you would have sort
Oh,
of
yeah,
bringing that
there's some
up.
Disney inspiration, yeah, definitely.
But
yeah.
if you look back to the Romance Dawn, right, the pilot version, the name of Luffy's ship, the little rowboat, that was Märchen, the going Märchen. And Märchen in German actually means fairy tale.
Yeah.
And so from the very start, it was clearly going to be loosely tied into fairy tales. And like, so I really do believe that Disney and Disney themes are really going to play a part. Like, even the fact that Disneyland is such a big, like, integral part of like Disney, like Japanese culture. Like, everyone
And
loves
Sabaody in the
Disneyland.
story.
And
Space
then we
Mountain.
have Wagonu Land, and then obviously in the latest video, I talk about how the Great Kingdom could have been called the Burikania, the Rain Land, which was like an acronym of Grand Line, right?
Oh, yeah, like rain, like REIG, and yeah.
Exactly. And so again, we're coming back to the idea of rain, as in the pouring rain as well. And the rain, the sun, you can sort of really start to see sort of a connection between all of that stuff.
Yeah. Also, fun fact for those who are wondering, Oda did an interview like 12 years ago where he describes how he actually used Disney characters to perfection his drawing for One Piece.
Yep.
He has admitted
Exactly.
to some sort of inspiration for this. So yeah, and there was a point you brought yesterday, because I always talk about if there's one Disney movie that's a big inspiration. Well, I always say Pocahontas, but the main one is Beauty and the Beast, and how you were able to find the castle inspiration from Marijoa is also the same. And you think of what they said about Marijoa, the 20 Kings. There's a similar storyline with Drum Island, which and it's very Beauty and the Beast if you think about it.
Yeah.
Chopper being the beast and the beauty at the same time. What was Chopper's father? A quack doctor. Belle's father was considered to be a quack scientist.
I mean,
Building
if
toys.
my
I
favorite
would think
Disney
Korea
to
has
sort of,
the beauty, but okay.
Wow.
she's married, right? That's insane as well. But anyway,
To me.
my favorite Disney to sort of pull from for One Piece is actually Peter Pan, because we have
Ooh.
Crocodile obviously with Hook, and obviously because Alabasta was meant to be like the home stretch of One Piece originally as well. So it kind of makes sense that Peter Pan would be quite a relevant story. Not only that, we have Emu, and I think in the Dragon Piece video, I talked about how Emu is I am you, as in like Joy Boy, I am you. And so if Emu was a shadow of Nika or Joy Boy, that would be really interesting tie into Peter Pan as well. Like the idea that a strong light like the sun god Nika will create a massive shadow, just as big of a shadow, right? The yin and yang. And then we also think about Peter Pan as in the Greek god who was
The mischievous one.
exactly who because of Christianity became a devil, the Baphomet.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You
That's
also think of the
Don't
actual
get me
story of
started
Peter
on
Pan.
devils, Kuso.
Oh, I know. You have an amazing theory on that. It's fantastic.
And you think about the other thing of Peter Pan, the way in the actual novels they talk about Neverland is almost to a T of what they say about Mary Joa, always lighted up when Peter Pan is there. It's never night. You hear the stories of the longer they stay in Neverland, the more they forget about the home. So the Lost Boys are they're not abandoned, they just forget.
I think
So
it's
like-
also interesting from another interview that Oda has done a long time ago. He had mentioned that he never really wanted to give the power of flight to the Straw Hats because it's supposed to be a story of them sailing upon the seas. And so it would that would trivialize a lot of the obstacles that are in your way for you to actually get to Laugh Tale and the end of the story and things like that. And so the power of flight being something so prevalent in Peter Pan and something being so gate kept, I feel like, because I feel like he will introduce it, but it's like only in the end game is something I've been talking about in several streams recently.
Exactly, 100%. It's definitely going to be in game. Even if you think of the Age of Heaven, which could have been the Age of Flight, right? Versus the sea circle being the sea travel. But on top of that, it's like what gave Peter Pan the ability of flight was a fairy. Then we think of like Fairy Verth, we think of the Tontatas, we think, wasn't there another mention of a fairy recently? Oh, the Green Fairy or something?
The Green Fairy, Absinthe.
The Absinthe,
And then even
Think
the Klabauterman, in a way, could be tied into sort of fairies as well, right?
Yeah, and then think of what Vegapunk said about Nika. As long as you believe a Sound God Nika, there'll always be a Sound God Nika. That's almost the same thing that was Peter Pan said about Tinkerbell.
Yep.
Well,
Belief.
Kuso, to go off of your Klabauterman thing, that Frankie does call them fairies.
There we go.
Didn't we also, were the Tontatas were also called fairies whenever people didn't know they existed, and they were just like, it's like shit was just disappearing, and then we found out more about them,
But the interesting thing is, like, fairies equivalent in Japanese would be yokai as well, and then we have all the yokai coming up in the Gorosei.
Ooh. Yeah, that's crazy. Man. Yeah, that's and like you were mentioning with the Shinto stuff before, and I wanted to kind of bring that back up, is I looked it up and it's called I'm not gonna pronounce it right, probably not, sorry, but it's like the Yayorozu no Kami. It's like literally it means like the infinite or like countless kami, which is something that is said in Shinto like belief structure. It's basically like every single little pebble and rock along the road has a god residing with it, or god or a goddess residing inside of it, as well as everything else from throughout the world. Like the breeze coming in from the west would have its own god, the breeze coming in from the east would have its own, and it's like literally everything around you is comprised of these spirits. And that kind of just reminds me of the voice of all things. And like I don't know, we've seen that's like one of the bigger mysteries still throughout One Piece, and I just wanted to like see if you had any potential thoughts on if or when or how we're gonna get that reveal in this final saga.
I think the interesting thing about One Piece is that, like, it's not biased, right? Like, Oda doesn't go and say one thing is good or bad, and it's like we've been saying so many times in this stream as well. Like, it's very nuanced,
very perspective based.
And so I feel like the end game is going to tie into the idea that, like, it's not about this story being about religion, or it's not about this story being about technology or about spirituality, but it's like it's all of that. And that's where, like, Oda sort of weaves his magic into it, right? Even the magic system in this world is kind of like, it's not just technology, but there's also a deeper meaning. There's a spiritual aspect to it. And so I think Oda will bring in Shinto ideas into it, but then he'll also sort of couple that with more of the technological advancements. And I think that's what the Void Century would have been sort of about. Like, it was a time of gods and devils, but it was also a time of technological advancements.
Yeah. You know, I see you guys keep mentioning the Shinto stuff, but one thing that I think you guys haven't really got to touch on yet is the fact that we see a direct version of that in the story with objects taking on the likeness of animals through devil fruits as well. You know, you have the teapot in Wano Kuni. You have Mr. Four's
Baba
gun.
Nuki, Funk Freed,
Yeah, Baba Nuki,
and I believe that's its name. And then Lasso. Yeah.
Isn't there also Papa
exactly.
Guy from Sabaody? I know that's not his
No,
name.
he
but
was a starfish that believed he could be human, so he.
He's
okay.
a whole
That's a
other rabbit hole
conqueror.
in
That's a
itself.
conqueror. That is a
Yeah, that
he
is
is-
the will of a conqueror.
yeah, he is the color of the supreme
Whoa.
king. Like that's crazy. Like that's a
The
conqueror.
color of the supreme star.
Pause.
Do you guys
But,
think that magic will be something that will be played around with? Or
Yes.
do you think, yes? In what way?
Oh man. Like so we've seen some pretty crazy things like the Sun Painter Stone, recently magic circles, somehow summoning. Like we still don't understand how Viva cards work, and we're barely, understanding of Pyrobloin, although it seems like Vegapunk kind of has that more or less figured out with his Cloudloft technology. But I think that magic, and Will says this all the time, and he's probably typing it in chat right now as he hears this, but magic is just technology that we don't understand yet, or something. I'm
Absolutely.
paraphrasing. And so I think that with us not knowing, we're still on the cusp of so many of these ancient kingdom and void century reveals. A whole bunch of this stuff is potentially going to be perceived as magic, and Oda doesn't have to put a nice ribbon on that and explain it. He can literally just leave it as open-ended as he wants. He doesn't owe us that explanation, because this is an absurd story. We literally enter the Grand Line sailing up a mountain. Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that is literally the magic of One Piece, isn't it? Like, Ghibli does that very well as well, where it's like on the cusp of that, like, it kind of explains it enough so that it makes you feel like, oh, okay, it's believable. But not so much that it actually breaks that magic, because as soon as you reveal all the tricks, then it's no longer magical.
I mean, if you think about it as
in-
well. Oh, sorry, go Lucas, you were waiting.
No, I was just gonna say, in the original Romance Dawn, which we've brought up several times now, there was two types of pirates. It was peace mains and
Morganeers.
right? Morganeers, yeah. And then there were sorcerers as well.
Oh yeah.
The first villain rode on a flying broom. So I think if magic does exist in the One Piece world, that could explain partly why the Void Century happened. Because think about it like technology in our world. It is a commonly held belief that governments hold great technological achievements, and they only give a little bit of it to the society at whole. Same thing with the magic in the One Piece world. It could be the case. They have all this stuff like teleportation rings and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They can summoning circles or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Saturn
and then they
literally
give out-
said on Egghead, like we want you stagnated or whatever.
Exactly.
Technology is advanced too far. And Emu was like, it's time for another cleansing. So yeah.
And I think the devil fruits are a way to give people just a little bit of that magic without them delving deeper into it.
I mean, if you think of Icarus as well, right? That's basically the story.
Flying too close to the sun.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
With a form of technology, it was wax wings.
And
Yeah.
everything goes back to Fishman Island, Daedalus and Icarus. And in One Piece,
Yes,
it's
sir.
Daedalus who goes too close to the sun and ends up fried calamari.
I would even say that for Luffy, because magic, regardless of the meaning of it, it's something that comes from a supernatural or mysterious source, right? Energy, or what do you want to call it? In a way, if you think about it, when Luffy was stagnant and pre-time skip, he reached his physical peak. Hockey, something that's, you would not call that natural, to some extent, almost supernatural with some of the stuff he's able to do. And now you're seeing he's again not reach another plateau with his Gear 5, where he's drained. So it does seem to me that we're going to more this magic realm to explain, how can Luffy shatter his ceilings? You know, could explain, you know, Roger and Whitebeard or Garp level of power as well. You know, that mysterious supernatural ability that we would call magic, but you know, it's not like magic, Harry Potter, or you know, fairy tale.
Yeah.
It seems to be like very
You're a wizard.
broad and specific at the same time. You know, the way Oda does it.
That's my favorite
What's amazing
thing.
about
Go ahead.
shoot. I was gonna say what's amazing about what you're saying, Cube, is that like it does feel like Oda's just going up and up and up and up. But the problem with doing that with a lot of other shonen mangas is that like you kind of end up with characters and stories that are just over the top and too peak. But then Oda has a way, like we talked about with the Straw Hat, where he just sort of grounds it back to something quite simple.
Crocodile's Delphi, do you think about it? I can touch him. Oh wait, if I just apply water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
then he just-
there's also just like natural enemies to like something like Enel's devil fruit
Yeah,
can
true.
be just counteracted by a rubber band, you know, or something. And so like
So funny.
it's really crazy, and that's where we understand like there are several magical systems, you know, for lack of a better term, in play here. We have obviously devil fruit, we have obviously hockey, but then technology is also an aspect, and then you also have to think about just like comedy. Like imagination is like something that we've seen Luffy tap into as like a separate like and you know, it's, I wouldn't say it's like Toon Force or Hammer Space quite, but like it gets in that kind of like absurd lane. But it's like it all boils down to just like Oda's a goofy guy, and sometimes it's like, yo, this would be funny, and that's a true like a power system within One Piece. Is just like if you're not somebody who's gonna be able to like deal with some of this absurdity that Luffy's gonna bring to the table, he's gonna beat you eventually. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Greg in the chat made an interesting point of, you know, we were talking about magic, and he wrote, you know, for Emu seems to use black magic. If you actually think about it, his abilities. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and then Cody brought up something magical as well, and it's Vex's beauty.
Oh,
Makes him ooh woo so much.
guys.
But no, that is spicy. He also
I mean,
said
the
something
black
about
magic
using
thing would-
swords and go ahead.
No, I was going to say the black magic stuff would probably tie into your theory a little bit too, right, Lucas?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. The deal with the devil aspect of it, it's gaining the knowledge of all. Is what I think Emu got is they learned everything there is to know about that world, and if magic was something that Oda had planned from the beginning, giving it to only the figure lurking in the shadows is such a power play, and I think it gives more credence to that Faustian deal aspect of it. Emu is the one who learned the entire knowledge of the world, not just about history, not about this, but how things work on a different level than how we would perceive them.
So, just so I'm clear, with black magic, is it kind of like the idea that there's like you have to trade something in order to gain that?
Typically, like it's not quite
typically,
like
yes.
alchemy. Alchemy is like
Yeah, okay.
the
I
laws
was
of
gonna ask
equivalent
about that.
exchange, but
Yeah.
that is something that is seen quite often throughout black magic. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing, and Greg just brought it up in the chat as well, is like a Davy Jones type figure. Like we know that Davy Jones's locker, that's where like all things that end up like adrift in the sea will eventually find their way down there. So it's interesting to think that like if Emu is up on high above the red line up in Marie Joie, and if that could be potentially like that's the mouthpiece, whether we know that they exist or not, that's where all of this propaganda for the past 800 years, it's all information in the world is supposedly trickling down from that source. And if you follow it all the way down to the bottom of the sea, all information will eventually end up in Davy Jones' locker. So like I think that's like a super interesting kind of like tie as well,
I'm actually
Yeah.
now whatever you guys were saying, it kind of makes me think of, what if Delphoot in some shape or form, its origin started from black magic in a way, evocating spirits from how Vegapunk said they come from a different dimension, and the people who fall to sea seems to go to the to the deep sea where supposedly Davy Jones' locker is supposed to be in. It just came to me.
Well, the thing about Shinto, I brought up in that theory, the Faustian deal theory, that maybe what devil fruits originated as souls of people, their will going into the devil fruit in a moment of exasperation, kind of thing. So it makes sense as well. I saw Greg bring up in chat that when he said Davy Jones figure, he meant someone who lost his heart. It's wild you said. I was thinking in my head at that moment, what if Emu lost their heart to the Opie no Me? Like we saw in Huck Hazard and everything. That someone out there has his heart. Maybe the One Piece is Emu's heart. Like, I don't believe that, obviously, but it is a fun thought.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, that would be wild. Luffy
So
just crushes
Kube?
it.
Do y'all think it's possible that Witheria and the Ancient Kingdom actually are places that have combined magic with technology, and that's why they're so advanced?
Ooh,
Oh,
I
that's
love
spicy.
that. Because like with area, like a lot of it should make sense, but Oda didn't really explain like the wind knots and seeing the hockey knot that we had from Joy Boy in Egghead. Like it's that's crazy. They like, and he's dressed literally like a wizard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Merlin.
Weather wizards.
Yeah.
And the
I'm here
comment he
for
made
it.
about his technology when he was teaching to Nami, if you reread it, it's basically him almost talking about Ragnarok.
Yeah.
In the wrong hands, it would end the world.
That's spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I really, it's on my bingo card. I think that Hair Does is absolutely making a comeback, like here in the Elbaf arc.
Oh yeah. That's actually going in part of my theory that will be out one day soon, I hope.
Huge. Make sure you're
Oh, wow.
You're a
subscribed.
wizard, Joy Boy.
You're a wizard, Joy Boy, Coach. That's amazing.
Yo.
Ooh, that's interesting what Will wrote just on top. Soul magic could be an energy source science.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And like,
Man.
I think that we're bound to eventually get answers on what was going on in like the moon Burka, but possibly also like the Verth Burka, like the one that's down here on the Blue Sea or on the White Sea, closer to the Blue Sea. But
You got there.
yeah, eventually. But I think it's really weird to think about, like, so like the moon was a place that, according to the NL cover story, some civilization had gone to mine for resources, and like my line of thinking is that it was for dry land because the flooding started to happen potentially. But like what possibly, like, and if that civilization came back down, I don't know, how do you have any major interpretations on all of the significance we could get from all of that, Kuso?
I mean, I think it was a Christmas piece video where I talked about how I thought that Nika had gone up to the moon, kind of like how the automators did the same thing, right? And if we're talking back about the wooden puppet thing with Nika, like if he went up there, then he became a space pirate. You know, traveled to different planets and sort of made nakama with all these different races in different planets, and then came back to the moon and set base there. Then, like you say, they ran out of resources. If they then went back to Earth, and that's how we got all the different races in the One Piece world, I think that would be quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think of like the sun god going to the moon, and like, you know, the moon in our real world is something that like reflects the sun light and things like that. But like, I don't, if it ties into like the future of the story is like how I'm mostly concerned. Like it's, I don't know if Oda's ever gonna fully give us the the full details of the past, you know.
I mean,
I
I
feel
feel like I foreshadowed. Well, I mean, not foreshadowed. I predicted that like One Piece might end in like 1200 chapters, for example, because 12 is such a prominent number in the story.
I heard it was
But
11.
like that's so soon.
Okay.
11.
If you know, you know. But that is very soon. I don't know if we're gonna
I know
get.
that's way too soon, right?
Yeah,
So,
I hope. I mean, I hope Oda takes his time with whatever he still has, to get to us.
Yeah, regardless of what plans he had, I do wish that he just keeps going. He's talked about how he does want things to end quickly, but then he'll be writing a chapter and he gets really excited, and then he's like, I have to add this thing in and that thing in, and he's just like full of all these new ideas, even though he knows what the final panel is going to look like, and he said that he's known all this time. Like, even then, it's like he just wants to add more to this world, and so yeah, I do really hope that he keeps doing that.
The last panel is just Luffy waking up. It was all a dream.
It was all a dream. Oh, sorry. But no, we were talking about.
Someone mute Cube. Captain's orders.
We were talking about specifically how, like, I don't know, with like black magic and different like theologies, and specifically like with the Faustian idea, and you have an interesting thought process on that as well that you've brought up in several of your videos, revolving around the word Lamu, right?
Oh yeah, my headcanon name for Joy Boy. Yeah.
Would you like to unpack a little bit of that for some of these folks here if they aren't already aware?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being a designer, like, that's my like day job, right? Like, I really enjoy character designs and stuff, and so I was like, what would be the name of Joy Boy that would be perfectly fitting? And when you think about Christianity and like Christmas, and also the idea of like pirates, Lamu just made sense, because it's like the idea there being that like Japanese people really love word plays. They just love puns, like, in general. Like,
who doesn't?
Well, yeah, but like more so, like, I feel like they're kind of too into it in a way. Like, even if you think about Naruto, like, Uzumaki Naruto, that just means whirlpool, and Naruto is like the spiral ramen condiment, right? And then Uchiha Sasuke, which just means spiky hair, and Haruno Sakura, which means like the sakura blossoms of the spring. And so it's like, and I talked to my mum about this a little bit too, because she used to be a writer when we lived in Japan. She was like, she was a writer for quite some time as well. And so it's like, is it just me, or do Japanese people just really seem to love wordplays? And she's like, yeah, just straight up, yeah.
I think the language is just really accommodating to that as well, with several different interpretations.
Yeah, so much so that we have so many different onomatopoeias for like just different things. Like, even for something as like obscure as like a leaf falling onto the ground, or like a flower petal falling to the ground, those would be two different onomatopoeias. But like, we have it nailed to a point where like, if someone just made up a new onomatopoeia, then you kind of instinctively know what that is referring to. And even Luffy's abilities, or like the One Piece Devil Fruits, they are all based on that as well. Like the Gomu Gomu, the Ito Ito, like, because onomatopoeias in Japanese is usually like Sada Sada or Zara Zara, Kara Kara, Don Don.
Moku, Mera Mera.
Exactly. So, sorry, what was the question? I feel like I went on a wild
we were just talking about
Lamu. Right, Lamu, right. And so I was like, oh, I was in a
it's a side effect. No, it's a side effect of being on stream with Lucas. It just happens.
It is.
Thanks, Lucas.
You become a rambling addict. It's not my fault.
Oh, man.
Oh, shout out.
He said the thing.
Crazy.
No, but so it makes sense to me that Joy Boy's name would have had multiple ways that you could interpret it as well.
Oh yeah.
Lamu being just that word alone can also mean lamb, ram, rum. The Lamu Island in the shores of Kenya. It can also be Lamu as in the character from Lumiko Takahashi Sensei. She's an author who wrote Ranma 1/2. She also wrote Inuyasha. Shout out to the new remake of Ranma 1/2 as well. And so I feel like it's fine.
Wait, don't answer that. Don't answer that.
A different time, Lucas. Like...
It's alright. And then the fact that you can add the D to it, like the will of D, to make it Doramu as well. Like, I feel like for me anyway, until Oda says no, it's just fucking, I don't know. His name was George.
Joyous
you know, like-
boyous.
Right. I like the tie to lamb because like a sacrificial lamb.
Exactly.
Like, and then also rum because we know, like, you know, like why is the rum always gone? Like classic, like, you know, a golden age of piracy, you know, like that's like one of the things that we just most closely relate. So I think that's so crazy too. The more that we figure out about Joy Boy, we still don't know this dude's name, but
no, we don't.
and like
I
with
mean,
you
even in
bringing
my
up
latest
recently,
video, I'm saying that it's
exactly that Joy Boy is a title as opposed to like, and so like I love the thought behind it all. And when I was going back down the rabbit hole, like obviously I've seen your theories, I've been a fan of yours for over a year now, but I tried to, you know, take notes and do my due diligence and the research before we put you on this stream, and that was something that really just like stuck out to me more and more, like as I watched through like a lot of your body of work. And that's one of my favorite things that you've ever like spit, is like that ideal. And I'm firmly, I love that. If that's what it ends up being, I'm super excited.
I mean, it also ties into like other different gods as well, right? Ra being the sun god, Rama the Indian god as well. We even have Krampus, all of them also tying into Lamu. So yeah, I do find it a really interesting idea. But again, at the same time, this is just me thinking about it as if I was Oda doing the character design, you know? And so I can't wait for what Oda actually ends up sort of naming Joy Boy, because that would be exciting anyway. Like when we got the Vegapunk reveal and he turned out to be like this Einstein guy, like I love that because he kind of gave us that red herring of Lilith, right? Where I'm like, okay, like I get where you're going with this. You're a pervy guy, I get it. But then when we got actual Vegapunk, and I'm like, okay, this is great. This is surprising. This is interesting. It's also relevant to our own history. So I really do hope that Oda's going to surprise me with something even better than Lamu.
Yeah, and also I like it as well because we refer Joy Boy as not Joy Man, but Joy Boy. And we always make connection to sheeps in the story, but lamb is just a young sheep, you know. So it's like,
yeah,
it's an interesting prediction. Yeah, the dreams as well. Think of, you know, the most common trope for you can't sleep, just count the sheeps, you know, those kind of stuff. Like it's countless. So that's why I do really like your prediction of Lamu. I do
Maybe
hope
that's where maybe that's where the chop fruit got its name, like lamb chop. Like I know, man. No, it's got to be something that's like kind of memeable. Like we know that about Oda at this point. Like he's a goofy guy. Like I said, he's a troll, and we love that about him. And having the ability to be translated in multiple different ways, much like the name of the series itself, like Hito Tsunagi is like what was said in Roger's speech, right? But like we get the title in like in English. So I mean, like it's interesting to think about it, like, and filter it down through several of these different criteria. And I think that this really nicely fits all of that. And like I know you said that the Ode to Joy, that's like your magnum opus from your channel and like all of the theories that you've done, and I love it. That's another thing I was wanting to bring up, so I'm glad that you brought it up. But I could not let the stream go all the way by without letting you spit a little bit about the Lamu stuff.
I won't lie, with your recent video with, you know, connecting the specifically Gorse with France or Emu with France, it's quite funny. Is that
were you okay with that, by the way? You weren't hurt?
Why was I hurt?
I mean, when I was writing, I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't hate me for this.
Why would I hate you for this?
It's so funny.
I've had similar thoughts as you, so you know, you're sharing the knowledge.
Oh my gosh.
For those who don't get it, Cube's French. No.
Yeah. Don't worry. But fun fact: in France, the period of the year where people actually eat a lot of ham to the lamb, which is almost double sheep and lamb, is during Easter, which is, you know, connection to Jesus. Yeah,
The Easter keys.
Like there's like big things that happens, you know, special restaurant does special thing. It's like almost ceremonial. Like it's something that's, you know, in the culture, not even religious. It's more cultural.
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing.
Okay, Lucas, call the troop. I think we're gonna have to Lelucia Vex's territory right now. He's laughing way too much.
Yeah, trigger
That
buster
was just
call.
good. that was
We
really
stole a golden
solid.
din.
Speaking of Easter, what do you guys think about the giant egg on Roger's ship? Do you think Oda's playing like a bit of an Easter egg hunt? Like I pointed out to the community ages ago that like if you look at the fountain on top of the Water 7, it actually looks like another egg as well, right? And if we think back to Oda's one of his childhood stories that he really adores is a story called My Father's Dragon. And in it, there are these dragons that are quite goofy looking. And just to visualize it, they basically look like the bulls. What are they called in Water 7?
Yagura.
Well,
Yeah, what are the giant ones called though?
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, yeah. Sodom and Gomorrah. But
they're
I can't
like
remember
three
what the
different.
species called.
Yeah, I think they're all called Yagura, and then there's like the 3 different types. I could be wrong. I don't remember.
Yeah, I vaguely remember. But I thought it was like some king bulls.
King Bulls. Yes, there we
Bulls,
go.
There you go.
Anyway, those bulls have like the stripes and like the funny sort of like designs on them. And if you even think about Oda's drawings of dragons very early on, way before One Piece even, he often drew dragons with like stripes on them, like the blue and white one. He also had one that was like a polka dot one, like a white one with red polka dots. And so it makes me wonder if the eggs are dragon eggs, right? Because the one on Water 7 was a blue and white stripe one, which Oda's actually drawn a blue and white dragon before as well. And so I've been kind of keeping an eye on sort of eggs that may or may not be sort of placed around the story. I've only found those 2, and I'm like, maybe the Torino Kingdom might have had one on top of there as well.
Baron Tamago.
Yeah, Baron Tamago, sure, yeah. He didn't turn out to be a dragon, but yeah.
It's Count Niwatori. All right, to you.
Yeah, can't
right.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting you brought it up, and I always meme and say that it's Panda Man, and like that Panda Man reincarnates through like an egg cycle or something. Like, cause
I love that.
we don't know how old he is, but he is canon in the poneglyph, isn't he? Like,
Well, he was, and he was in the Noland flashback as well, in both
So-
the picture book and the flashback.
and so like through a pattern of rebirth, like Baron Tamago's fruit shows us. What if Panda Man, like instead of actually becoming deceased and unalived, just reverts back to an egg, and that's what Roger had on his ship? Like, I always meme about that because I have no fucking clue. I'm gonna be real. Like,
Oda be
I have a
Oda.
common- Yeah, the common theory I believe is that it's Uranus. Also, Greg, I saw in the chat that you in our Discord about it being Emu's soul, which is pretty spicy. I'm gonna have to check that out
Emu's
after stream.
soul. Oh, like the heart that
Yeah.
we were talking about?
So I thought you
Yeah.
said mole. I was confused for a second.
But no, the common theory in the community is definitely Uranus, right? Like it's a giant bird, like a rock or something like that.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I love the idea of Oda just trolling us, like with an actual Easter egg. That is
Yeah.
hilarious.
what if it's like a statue from Easter Island, but like, and like everyone's like, what are the faces about? And like, this is just like an Easter Island, like
Easter-
Easter egg thing, like where it's like, what's this egg all about? What if it's literally just like some statue? It's not an actual
It's like
egg.
the lawn ornament in Velvet.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we saw a lot of Viking outfit among the Roger pirates. If they do like to go to Elbaf, it was just an egg that they brought for a party to crack it and eat for the giants. That would be hilarious if it's just, food.
It's just food.
What if it's like,
just food.
yeah, it's empty. Like, it's just like a hollow statue. It's empty, just like the chests on the island of strange animals, like where Gaimon's at or something. Like, there's nothing in the egg. The real contents of the egg was the friends we made along the way.
Yum. Sunny side up.
It hatches and Ace is in there.
Crazy.
I would not want to see that.
He was never dead.
With everything you guys been saying, Panda Man,
Listen,
reverting to an
Bird
egg
was
and
holding a
everything.
donut in the most recent chapter. What could it mean? No, I'm sorry. Go on, Q.
I was just gonna say, with everything you're memeing about, Panda Man, maybe Panda Man is just a phoenix. In a way.
I'm here for it.
Yes.
He dies in a burst of fire and then gets reborn from the ashes. I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm
Well,
down
that's the
with that.
thing as well, is like, and now, like, yeah, I'm still memeing, but like, am I also cooking? Who knows? But like, if these mythical figures, like, we know that Nika, this is somebody we all believe actually existed within the world of One Piece somewhere along the timeline, many, potentially thousands of years ago. And so, like, how many, like, we all also have pretty much confirmation that dinosaurs, like the all of the ancient Zoan, the Ryu model like stuff, also existed. How many of these other mythical Zoan types also existed? Was there an actual azure dragon? And with the canonicity of like Monster, that one shot that Oda did where Ryuma slayed a dragon, like being drawn into question recently and stuff like that, like how many of these, like, was a phoenix an actual thing? Because we see the phoenix that Marco's fruit is, but like, what would that be based off of? And if it was an actual thing, how could it die? Or is it still around?
I mean,
It is
Vegapunk
Pac-Man.
did say that devil fruits are the manifestations of people's dreams and wishes, right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of them could have existed because obviously the One Piece world does reflect ours in a very big way. Like, they even mentioned Christmas at one point in one of the chapters. And so we know that, okay, Christmas kind of exists in the world of One Piece for some reason. We know because
It's
of
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas as well. I mean, even the birthdays of all the characters, they're based on our world as well. And so we know that because of that, I guess dinosaurs and stuff existed in their world as well. But because devil fruits are the manifestations of people's wishes and dreams, that maybe the Azure Dragon or the Phoenix may have been more the imagination side of things, potentially.
Yeah, but hear me out. Roger said, "I won't die." Like, Roger sounded very confident when he was talking to Rayleigh, and like, I don't know, maybe he cracked it. Maybe like
he cracked the egg, right?
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, you get it. But,
Roger's in the egg. I see where you're going with this, Vex.
Also, I'm not sure for the Phoenix, but there is definitely a room to believe that Kaido's fruit maybe actually did exist, because he is a fish, and he does look similar to some of those sea kings we saw in Fishman Island. Still somewhat different, but very similar, and he is a fish. So there is at least room that he might have existed a long time ago.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Punk Hazard, when they first see the dragon, don't they say that the last dragons died out thousands of years ago or something like that? Like,
it's like legend says,
Yeah.
or rumor has it. It's not like, it's nothing like airtight or to go off of. But it's really interesting to think about, because this is such an absurd and fantastical story. Why wouldn't these things have existed is my thing. Because if Luffy can just in Gear 5 pull paint and goggles and a baseball bat out of his like freaking afro type thing, like if the power of imagination is that powerful, then I believe, even if it's something retroactive, potentially.
It could also be like a technological thing, potentially, or something tied to imagination and technology, right? Like, we had the dragons were literally that. It was something that was created by Vegapunk through his imaginations of what a dragon would look like. But we also had the horrible adaptation that we had recently of Gyuma, right? Where we had dragons in that story as well, which is meant to be kind of canon to One Piece in a way. And then on top of that, we have what was the name of the Shishi in Wano?
Komachio?
Komachio, exactly. But in one of the volume covers, I believe, one of the author's notes, I think that Oda talks about the Shishi lions being creatures of imagination, like he uses that exact word. And so I do think that they probably did exist, but it might not have been like it might have been more like a chimera kind of situation, potentially.
Actually, with the recent chapter, and this is for Kuso before everyone else, what if like the Phoenix and let's say Kaido's dragon is similar to what they just recently said about the Asian Onis with the giants? You know,
Which
it
was-
got
They were
got
bred
diluted
out
a
kind of
bit,
thing?
and like very. Well, sorry.
They got kind of like bred out, basically.
Yeah, bred out, and like only a few of them a jump generation, and like maybe some of those bird creatures or sea kings stem from those creatures, you know, and they're just much younger. They're like descendant, and they're not as pure. So like maybe Kaido's dragon is what sea kings used to look like long eons ago, because we know at least the sea kings have to be at least 800 years old, but maybe Kaido's dragon is much older.
At the end of the day, all of this comes down to Gaimon, right? And the Island of Reanimals.
I heard so, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go.
I mean,
Yeah, it
the
is-
One
yeah, it's
Piece
Gaimon.
is Gaimon. Like, he was literally a potted tree in a treasure box, which is to say, Oda's saying that the One Piece is dirt or the tree itself. So it all comes down to Gaimon.
But how do you explain Starfunkel?
Yeah. Love Piece. Watch Love Piece. There we go.
He's like the guy from that starfish from Sabodi. He wanted some love and he got her.
Wasn't Simon and
We gotta teach
Garfunkel the
Ian how
ones
to
that?
say Papa Goo.
How did you say it before? But it's also
You can't. He
Papagu.
just never says it.
Technically, it's Papagu as well, though. So
Listen here, Kuso. What'd you say about Simon and Garfunkel, though?
didn't they write some Disney songs or something? Or am I mistaken?
I think you're mistaken.
I have
Alright,
no,
good.
no
Newman
clue.
did.
I mean, like Paul Simon did like the Wild Thorn. That was Nickelodeon though, but no, not that I know. Of.
Thornberry, someone.
That's
Crazy.
blast from the past.
Deep cuts here today, folks. But
They have a song called Disney Girls, but I don't.
So
I
let me
think that's
get
just art.
Donnie's original Nika.
oh
Makes
wow,
sense.
that's crazy. But yeah, I like. Does anybody? We've been spitting for like 2 hours now, pretty much. It's always a pleasure having you on, Kuso. But yeah,
Likewise.
a few of us do have to dip pretty shortly. Any other last thoughts? Any questions that you guys here, like any of the crew might have for Kuso?
Yeah, mine's very pressing, actually. Kuso, are you and Dawn and Dusk the same person?
I swear to God, Lucas.
Yeah, we're actually triplets. It's me, Drop the Pizza, and Dawn and Dusk.
Dawn and Dusk, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
triplet piece is real. This is why I believed in the Shanks has a twin brother theory.
They're just like the Redbeard pirates from real life. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Definitely make sure you guys go check out his channel. I feel like we could probably stream for like 5 straight hours and never have a lull or anything like that. But yeah, anybody in the chat, if you haven't already subscribed to Kuso Land Theories, make sure you do that. Link in the description. Check out his most recent video. That shit is fire. And make sure you're subscribed to the Eternal Dawn crew, because we've got a lot of spicy stuff coming up as well. Yeah, anybody else have anything they wanted to say before we go ahead and close out?
For sure.
yes.
I definitely want to say thank you to Kuso, because I've just been lost in your thoughts now for about past 2 hours, it seems. So it's always nice to hear you talk, and I really do appreciate when you drop content into the community. Like I said, it's very fresh.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
basically what I was going to say as well. We love you, Kuso. The community loves you. We love having you on the channel. We love being part of your discussions when you're cooking up those spicy theories. It's always a good time to have you here, brother. Now, everyone else say really nice things about Kuso.
Appreciate it. No, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Like, I really do appreciate the community. I love the TED community as well. Like, all of you guys are just so friendly, so welcoming, and like, whenever we've had new people from the community pop in, you guys are always just there to make sure that they just feel like they're part of the long-standing team. So I love it.
And we should have
We're
this guy
just-
on more.
Right.
He's gassing us
Yeah,
up
right.
now. Like, this is crazy.
We do appreciate Kuso, but don't forget we're Cypherpole. We're just undercover.
Whoa. Speak for
Whoa,
yourself.
whoa.
Hold on, dude.
Just kidding. No, man, listen, it's we just highlight the people that deserve it, and you've been killing it since day one. I've seen many people throughout the years drop their first video 10-15 minutes, 1 hour and 29 minutes as a first video, and it was fire.
Yeah, that's
dude.
crazy.
Yeah, you deserve all the praises.
Oh, thank you, man.
We just shine the light, you do all the work.
Yeah, if you guys want to see more of these like One Piece Theory showcase or spotlight type of videos, make sure you subscribe, because we're lining up a couple other guests where we can talk about their theories, their vibes, and just kind of branch out and reach out to some of the other goats in the community. It's always a pleasure talking with you, Kuso, and I'm super glad that we got to get you on board today to cook on all of this. If you guys want to continue the conversation, Kuso is very active in our Discord, link in the description, and go hit up his comment section. Like, he loves reading all of the wonderful comments that people leave him. He totally reads all of the comments. No, I'm kidding.
I actually do read all of them, but yeah.
Yeah, but
Some of them make him cry, but no.
but
Some of
it's
the comments.
it's always a vibe, and we literally cannot wait to have you on it again. Like, we were memeing at the beginning, we should bring you on every week. We literally could if we would, and whenever you're free again, feel free to hit us up, but we will definitely
that'd
be
be
having you
amazing.
back on soon.
You have a message, Kuso, from World of Dreams. He says,
I'll go on.
he says, you're like Ennis Lobby. You're always shining.
Aww.
Oh my! I thought it was gonna be something mean. Now I'm crying for a different reason.
Oh,
Speaking of chat, we have Ghost Train
Ghost?
just popping into
Ghost.
chat. He'll be
The
joining us
goat.
next week for one of these similar
I cannot
discussions
wait.
on his theories.
hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Ghost Train is
Super
a
hype.
chef in his own
Absolutely
right.
goaded.
Did someone say
Shout out.
super?
But with all that
We
being
are just
said,
now wrapping up Ghost.
yeah, with all that being said, everybody who is here live, thank you so much for hanging out in the chat and vibing and whatnot. Make sure you like the stream. If you're catching this in the future, leave us a comment, tell us your favorite little bit, and make sure you guys join the Discord for real. It would really mean a lot to us. We love having conversations literally every single day, but we could only do content some of the days. But we're happy to have goats like Kuso with us when we do it, and goats like Ghost Train. So looking forward to that next week. And with that being said, Kube, you wanna send us off?
We'll see you all in